Here's one thing I know about all of the future. It's that if we are to arrive at the destination that God has called us to, which we're going to talk about tonight, I do know it will be because leaders like yourselves lead. And again, the reason why you're here is because in some way, shape, or form, you are committed to the vision and the mission of this church, and you lead out in that on a day-to-day basis. I realize for us, many of us are here for the second time today, sometimes even the third time. I know there were groups happening today and serving happening today, and I know that each and every one of you allow us to do what we do on a daily basis and a weekly basis. So I'm grateful for you, and so tonight I just want to begin, and does this work, by the way? Okay, cool. Yeah, because we're going to be recording this, and actually, can we frame this a little bit taller? So, just, like, I don't know, just get there we go. There we go. All right. There we go. Yeah, good stuff. So, and actually, I used to preach from a TV, always, and so it's kind of fun to have the old TV up on stage, and so we'll see how this goes. But again, what I want to do tonight, before we talk about the future, and this is something I think it's so important for us to do more often than we do, is to look back, right? And for some of us, this is new information, but some of you have been around, but in 2006, right, which is the year that Bridgeway started, we get to celebrate that moment here tonight. And it would be remiss for us to not look back before we look forward. And I wanted just to remind us that the reason why the Bridgeway was founded was because Art and Holly received a vision from God to create a new type of church in Denton County, which is to be a church without walls. And this is not going to be your average church, one of the other dozens of churches that you could go to, but there was going to be something unique about this church, and really that stems from our vision. And we've talked about this all the time, and we can't overstate our vision enough, because really the implications are profound. But we are a church without walls, which means we think that anyone should come, and today we've even talked about that, about barriers that we have in church. We think we should be a church without barriers. Right, so anyone can come into an environment either on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night or what have you and hear about Jesus. And so we also know that for us, though, one of the things that makes Bridgeway is that we fundamentally believe that church happens outside of these walls. So that true church happens around your living rooms, around tables, at your workplaces, around schools, right? So that's the whole idea of being a church without walls. It's a push and pull. It is an environment where everyone can come, but then everyone goes out and to share their faith. And I say that again because we have to realize what a gift that is and how grateful we need to continue to be for that legacy that we've been given, that God has placed on first of all on the hearts of Art and Holly, but that we've all been a part of championing that vision. And then again, our mission, which is about connection. And we talk about this, about the problems and the disconnection we see in our culture, about how we've been called as a church to help bring people together, right? So first of all, that we can connect to God, and we can connect to others, and we talked about this last week. Nice, I love your group shirt there. Definitely a shout out there. So if you haven't joined a group, no, I'm just kidding, you guys all are in groups. So we talk about this, and we talk about the importance of connecting others to God. And so we need to realize that even today we can celebrate, things like our team from Ecuador, right, who got back and shared the gospel with hundreds of people. We can celebrate the efforts we have with our downtown Dallas ministries, with Filling the Void, and with other ministries, and Peter and Ria in Athens, and so many things that are happening. So again, I just want to begin here because we need to look back, and we need to realize that, first of all, God has given us a vision and a mission. But last year we talked about Nehemiah, right? That God doesn't just give vision, He provides for the vision that He gives. And the reason why we are here today as a church is because through thick and thin, God has been faithful to us. He's continued to provide at every juncture, and in times where things were good and where things were bad, God was good to us, and He has continued to be good to us. And then again, I just start thinking about this, and I think about, at least at Bridgeway for the last 13 years, there's been a foundation, there's been a legacy that has started. It's a spiritual legacy that we are all a part of. We all carry that, and I certainly feel that to a greater degree possibly because, especially after coming on as the new lead minister, I feel this weight to continue this work, to help us bring new life into our vision. In a lot of ways, I kind of feel like we're like the people of Israel, and we've been brought into, like you think about the story of the Exodus, right? God gives this visionary leader, Moses, this task of rescuing the people of Israel. They lead them out of Israel in this miraculous or out of Egypt in this miraculous fashion. And then as they're getting ready to head into the promised land, Moses hands off the baton to his young protege, Joshua, and Joshua has the honor of taking the people into the next phase. And in some ways, I feel like that's a really great spiritual analogy for us. You know, I like to think that we have been blessed with this incredible story, and I feel just an honor and a privilege to be a part of that, and I'm grateful for all of you for trusting me. I'm grateful for Art for taking a chance on me. I'm grateful for our elders for continuing to help lead and guide me too, so I'm grateful. And so as much as I stand on the shoulders of others, so do we all stand on the shoulders of those who have come before us. And so again, when we're thinking about the past, I start to think about that in terms of a spiritual legacy. But so there's where the fun part gets. So we start to look back, and now we start to look around at where we are today. And that's 2019, by the way, if you're kind of catching that on here. So 2019, so we're here, and I think that's the first thing we need to acknowledge, is that we are all here, and we're here together. And that sounds kind of elementary, but especially when you think about just the different people in this room. There are some of you that were here literally on the first day. Does anyone here, like the first couple of meetings, who was here when we first started in celebrations? Art and Holly, you guys over there? Yeah, so we've got people who were here, like ground floor members. You moved chairs, which means you are committed to this thing. You've got people who have probably been here, who's been here for less than a year, just at Bridgeway, less than a year. Yep, okay, so, and then everyone in between. But the cool thing is, we're all here, we're unified, and we get to celebrate where we've been, and we also get to look ahead to where we're going, but we're going to go there together. And whether you got here 13 years ago or 6 months ago, we're going to be unified, and we're going to be aligned in our vision and our next steps together. So I just think that we need to remember what a gift that is. A lot of churches do not get to celebrate unity at these types of events, and we are a church that gets to. So we're here, we're all here together, and we're healthy, and maybe the more precise theological term would be that we're blessed. Did you know that? We are incredibly blessed. And you guys are hey, you guys are core people. If you want to throw some amens or like, hey, just go for it, Kyle, like you can do that. It'll help me. So we're healthy, and we have to realize in the last 18 months, if we just look at that time period, we've seen in a time of transition, mind you, and remember, leadership transitions always are church decliners. They're never good, right? And so we have seen a leadership transition that has been the healthiest that I've ever seen. We've seen almost 18% growth in terms of our total attendance. We're seeing people give and be generous, and we're seeing our budget exceeded. We've seen, I think to date, and it's probably a little bit beyond this now, but we've baptized over 100 people through the ministries of Bridgeway. We've launched a new missionary family. We've brought on two new staff members for our next gen team. I mean, we could just continue to go on and on, correct? We have been blessed richly by God, and that is amazing, and we need to thank God for that. We need to realize what a gift that is, but with blessing, right, we are blessed to be a blessing. God has entrusted us with much, so I really feel almost a greater weight, right? Because God's blessed us. He's given us something, and he's saying, hey, you got to go out, and you're going to have to do something with what I've given you. And that's why I say we're hungry. We need to always be asking ourselves, okay, God, you've given us this. What are we supposed to do? You've blessed us, and now we have to ask for what purpose? And so for us, we need to realize that we need to stay hungry. It's the parable of the talents. When we're blessed, when we're given something, it's like, ooh, that's nice. Blessing. It's like a blessing blanket or something. We want to bury that treasure, and God says, no, I've given it to you to go make a kingdom impact, all right? And so that's why we get to be excited when we're looking around, and I'm telling you, so few churches get to be excited when they look around. A lot of churches look at the good old days, say those were the good old days. We get to say, hey, we have the great old days, we're living in the great old days, but with God, the best is yet to come, right? So with that, here's the deal. I want to start looking ahead, and this is where things are going to get exciting, and really what we're going to talk about is some shorter term goals, but I also want to cast some longer term vision here as well for us. There we go. So what I want to do tonight is I want to look ahead at sort of two horizons. In a few minutes, we're going to talk about 2020, 2021, the next 24 months or so. But I also, before we do that, we're going to talk about maybe what it looks like in 5 years and just some things that we can start to visioneer and start to dream about together. And really the whole point of what we want to do tonight is to, again, clarify the direction, so to make sure that we are understanding as a leadership team where we're going. We want to decide how we're going to get there, so alignment of strategy. And then what those things do is it helps us to focus and to understand as a church what is important and why. So before we get there, so let's just take a look here, and let's just look at 2024. So 5 years from today. I've been thinking about what I see and what our leaders see happening in and through Bridgeway. And I see three things. I see, first of all, I see a thriving church. And some of the things that I do late at night is I just stay up and I just dream about Bridgeway. It's kind of weird, but I just do that. And sometimes you appear in my dreams about Bridgeway, and it's bizarre. And I won't tell you which of you appear in my dreams, because that would be even weirder. But I see our church, and I start to think about what does our church look like in 5 years. You know, when I was first coming to Bridgeway and we were in these conversations, I remember Art or someone sent me this document, and it was something that our elders had developed about the church. It was like a one-pager. And it said something pretty bold that I really latched onto, that inspired me, and maybe it'll inspire you. And first of all, I saw our vision and our mission, and I loved that. That was the thing that really attracted me. But our elders said something very, very provocative and very, very profound. They said, on this piece of paper, and so it's written down so I can show you the evidence. They said, in the hands of the right leader, Bridgeway can be a church of 1,500 people. I thought, well, that's kind of bold. It's kind of bold, and I started to think about it. Is that even possible? Is that even possible to be a church of 1,500? And as I started to think about that, I started to get excited about it, but not because 1,500 is a cool, big number. I started to think about what would happen, what would have to happen for us to get there. And I started thinking about just stories and individuals. And I started to think about Bridgeway as a church of 1,500. I was thinking about this. In 2024, if we could get there, that would mean we would baptize 350 people a year in 2024. I think about the fact that if we can work in this direction, and if we can accomplish that goal, we could start to give close to $500,000 away per year for missions alone. I start thinking about the ministry that could happen. I start to think about the people that could come to faith. And because here's what it is. When we start talking about numbers and things, some people are like, ew, we don't want to talk about church growth. And you know how I feel about that. I think the church is supposed to grow. Peter grew it by 3,000 in one day. So he's kind of laid down the gambit for us there. But I started to think about it, because when you start to think about goals, and those are all actually outcomes of a healthy, thriving church. So when you see a healthy, thriving church, you see people come to know Jesus. You see a whole community transformed, which is the next thing I see. And I would also say, here's the one thing I would change about what our elders said. It said in the hands of the right leader. And I would just add an S to the end of that word, and I would agree. Because this has never been about one person. This has never been about a personality. This is about a group of people coming together around a common vision. And I truly believe if leaders, this room, and probably a few others, if our leaders come together, I truly believe that we can accomplish that. And I get so excited to think about the impact and the life change that represents. So that's what I see for our church. But when we think about the community, we have to realize that we're supposed to transform our community. And again, we've talked about this, but 70% of people in Denton County, in the heart of the Bible, buckle of the Bible belt, do not know Jesus. Which means that I believe that in 2024, we should look at Bridgeway as a place that is actually transforming our community. I think we should make it as hard as possible for someone to go to hell in Denton County than we possibly can make it. And we have to realize those are the stakes we're talking about here. This is eternities. These are people's eternal life connected to or disconnected to God. And so what I see is that we need to be transforming our community, and Bridgeway needs to be an active partner with other many churches, but we need to be a part of transforming this community, and then we also need to be working towards a changed world. And the cool thing is here, we're already starting to see what happens when people that are excited about the gospel and excited about making disciples, when you see like a Peter and Rhea are, in one sense, they're just these two people out in the middle of Greece, right? But you just look at some of the things that are happening, it's like these drops are hitting a pond. And these little drops, they start to ripple out. And I see what happening through the lives of Peter and Rhea and people like Michael and Liz Stathopoulos, that we're actually being a part of changing the world. We're going to the ends of the earth to change the world with the good news of Jesus, which desperately needs it. And so when I start thinking about 2024, I get really excited about what I think God can do in and through this church if its leaders will come together and be unified and be focused and be non-compromising on that vision. So, the question: if we agree on this vision, if we're excited about this vision, then the question is, what do we have to do today to impact the world tomorrow? So literally, what do we need to start doing right now that will allow us to get where we see ourselves going for the next 5 years and beyond? But so what we're going to do tonight is for the next few minutes, I want to just share with you 2 initiatives that we are feeling called to accomplish in this next year. And this is something that we've done for the last better part of a year with our staff and our elders. We've had lots of conversations with ministry stakeholders, with obviously our leadership team. Over the summer, some of you have been invited to come to other meetings where we've had conversations around finances and just trying to ask lots of questions and to really ascertain where God is leading us. And we feel at every step God has been saying, yep, take another step. And take another step. And so here we are tonight. We are a large leadership core of Bridgeway, and we're excited about these. So I want to announce 2 initiatives that we feel led to accomplish or to take on in the next 24 months. And the first is this. It's that we want to see a marked increase in our missions funding. And I've said it once, and I'll say it 100 more times, that our missions team and the Bridge Beyond team, led by Roxanne and formed by Dave Tillman, it's probably the flagship thing that we do at Bridgeway. The level of professionalism and the care of detail and just the passion that they have for missions is frankly unparalleled, and I will belabor that point as long as I can. It is absolutely incredible, and what we're seeing here is that we're seeing God is already up to something incredible with missions, both locally and regionally with our work in downtown Dallas, but also abroad with some of the other exciting things happening. And we always have this idea that, hey, why don't we just figure out what God is doing already and get on God's team and start doing what God is already doing, right? And so we've started to do that, and we're seeing incredible things in missions, but we need to also increase our ability to respond to what God is doing. And so we need to see more resources available for some specific initiatives that we want to accomplish, but also we want to see our ability to respond and to be able to say yes to things that God is leading us to do. So that's initiative 1. The next thing we want to do is we want to construct a children's facility. The time has come for us to enact the final phase of our site plan here, which has always been to build a permanent children's facility. If you are aware of our current facilities, you know that they leak, and there's a very good chance that it might be blown away by the next stiff breeze, okay? So, I say that a little bit in tongue-in-cheek. I'm not here to make the case here. When you see it, you know this is just something that we need to do. I'll talk a little bit more about why, but it is time for us to enact this final plan, this final phase of our site vision to construct a children's facility, and this is exactly what it will look like. So let me give you some more context here. So about missions funding, here's what we're proposing. It's $175,000 per year for the next 2 years. So what we want to see here, and that's a pretty significant increase. It's about a 20% increase from where we are projecting we're going to land this year. And so again, just so you know, we do local outreach for this. So our vision statement for our missions team is out of Acts 1:8 to reach Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth, right? So these concentric circles. And so what this $175,000 represents is all of our local outreach and being able to expand our local outreach, as well as to continue to fund Peter and Rhea. But here's what I'm very excited about, and actually no one knows this, so you'll be the first people to hear about this, is that this week our missions team has officially recommended to our elders that we will be supporting Jake and Stacy Gerald as full-time missionaries to Spain. And I think we can be excited about that as well. So that is super exciting. We've been just walking through with Jake and Stacy for a long time, and it's been a great process. There's actually one other potential opportunity that we're not ready to announce yet. So again, keep praying for us on that. Pray for wisdom and guidance for the missions team, because Roxanne, you've been working hard, my girl. Yeah, you've been working hard. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're like, don't talk to me. Just anyways. So again, this is a picture of what we see happening with missions. And again, what we're seeing right now is that God's blessing what we're doing, and He's already giving us opportunities, and we need to be in a position as a church to simply say yes to what He is laying at our feet. So again, more information on that to come, but we're very excited as well. So talking a little bit about the children's facilities, here's some more information. And again, at each of these phases, we've had more and more information and some more clarity, so we'll have that for you tonight. But basically what we're proposing is with the children's facility, it will be about 8,000 square feet of programming space, which is up from about 5,500, about 5,000 to 6,000, depending on which way you look at it, of current space. So it's about a 25% increase in our overall capacity. But more than just having more space, it would be the right type of space for three things. First of all, for safety. And again, I'm not here to be alarmist, but the world is crazy, and crazy things happen, and so we need to be in a position where, at the very least, we are offering the most safe environment for our kids, and remember, for unchurched kids who are coming to our facility. So we need to make sure that we're maximizing the space for safety. We want to make sure it's fun, because people need to realize, and kids especially need to realize, that Jesus is their friend and that He loves them, and that church is a positive place for them to be. And a lot of us probably grew up in environments where church wasn't very fun, and so we don't want their experience to be different. We want to make our children's team, give them all of the tools that they need to make sure it's a fun environment. And then frankly, this piece of excellence. And when I say excellence, there's a difference between excellence and opulence when it comes to facilities. We are interested in value. We are interested in economizing and getting the best bang for our buck. But what we do want to communicate to ourselves and to the community is that our kids, that the next generation, is a priority. That it is a priority for us to give them the best we possibly can, because as we say, if we do not create another generation of Jesus followers, we will be the last generation of Jesus followers. And so for us, we need to provide an environment that's welcoming, that's excellent, that really shows the value that we place on our kiddos. And then finally, the plan would be to occupy what is now the Faith Factory and the South parking lot. Does anyone want to see a picture? Yeah. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to share this with you. But as mature leaders, you have to realize there's a difference between an architectural drawing and a conceptual plan, okay? So here's, and I say that, what we've been doing is we've been working with a design and build team to help us kind of work through some of the concepts and the flow. This is not an exterior elevation, but it just gives you some ideas of what we've been thinking about. And so I'll just let you look at it here. And Will, can we put this up? Okay, so you can kind of see here. So you can see right now the current existing building is here. And then the proposed site basically takes up every square inch of what is now that south parking lot. And the HQ and the offices would be roughly like here, to give you the orientation. And so what we're envisioning here is something that works to this degree. Is first of all, we want it to have an attractive sort of frontage, right? And so this would be a main entrance primarily for families to use, where they can get in, and these are nice wide corridors and hallways. Who here wants some nice wide hallways for our children's areas, right? So you'll have check-in here, and there's that circular area which will be designed to be just a fun, cool place, music going and whatnot. And then this would all be covered. So for anyone else, either they can go through and have access this way or have covered, cooled access, probably with fans or misters of that kind of thing, right? And so then what we would do is we have a big corridor and a hallway. And this has been really, really spearheaded by Tim, who's been thinking about things from a flow perspective, but also from a safety perspective. So you can see here, there's programming space here, but anyone in this main corridor, we have direct line of sight. And if you're like a creepy dude just hanging out around there, just checking it out, we'll be able to instantly spot that person, again, just to make sure that it's as safe as possible. So again, these are probably subject to change, and so you're just going to have to, that'll take shape as time goes on. One of the things we're trying to actually incorporate, which most churches don't do, is an environment for a large group environment for our early childhood. So that'd be our little kids. They can come together and have a proper worship space and teaching space, and then to go back to their classrooms. And so again, we're still working through that. But this is just a basic idea of what we're working on and what we're thinking through. And again, it's all subject to change, but we're trying to just think through this to try to get the most value and the most fun out of the space, but also to do it for the least cost we can. So another part of this is that we're also looking at the possibility, just to help flow, to actually shift the main entrance from the center of the building to the southwest, so that you can actually open up this whole area right now where the gathering place is, and kind of open that up so that you'd walk into a much more expansive lobby that would help to facilitate some flow. And again, that would leave these current classrooms open, and so we could kind of just shift things around. But now all of our kids are in designed space for them. It's safe, it's fun, and it's excellent to show kind of what we're trying to do with children's ministry. It's pretty cool, right? I think it's fun. I've been staring at this stuff for like days and weeks and months. So like I've made so many sketches and doodles. It's just cool to see it here. Like I got a tear almost when I saw it. I'm like, oh my God, it's here. Yeah. So this is kind of what we're thinking. And again, you all know this could change. There could be things, but this is a layout that we feel really accomplishes some of the broad concerns that we're trying to address. Okay. Yeah, so it's really cool. Now, who wants to know about how much all this costs? Because this is, yeah, exactly. This is really cool. Like, wait a second, how, All right, so what I want to do is I want to talk, again, just a little more nuts and bolts about what we're thinking and what we're projecting, because what we're looking at here is also not just a special project, but it's a different way of thinking about how we fund our mission. We'll get to that in just a moment here. So, all right, so what is the need? So the need is this, and I've put this here so you can kind of get an idea, because we're talking about things in like a 2-year horizon here. So we're not thinking just an annual budget, we're thinking of a 2-year span here. So general operations, that's salaries, staffing, keeping the lights on, et cetera, et cetera. That's $1.125 million a year, which gives us a total 2-year need of $2.25. So again, this is what we're basically doing now, and Julie, you can correct me, we're like 107% of plan here on this. So again, we're very confident that this is a very manageable number. This is kind of representative of what we do now. Missions, again, you can see here, we want to see 175 per year for a total of 350. And then right now, we're projecting the building cost to come in somewhere in the 1.8 million. It could be a little less. That's still getting more clarity each and every day. And so what this looks like is over 2 years, it would be a total need of $4.4 million, which, again, is definitely a little eye-popping. But just to put this into perspective and context here, when we were originally retrofitting and buying this space, the need proportionate to where we were then was actually greater. Does that make sense? So we did more proportionally with less resources. Now, this is still going to be a challenge. It's going to be something we're all going to have to, it represents a lot of sacrifice, et cetera, but we do feel that with God's help and with our sacrifice, we can actually come into this, get this need. And we'll talk a little bit, I know, because there's a few questions that I know you're asking already. We'll get to at least one of them here in a few minutes, but let me come back to this. And so what you see here, again, year 1, year 2, the total need is $4.4 million. And so what we're proposing here is we need to talk about, again, how do we get there? And what you see here is this is sort of just a representative sketch of the traditional way of raising funds and of operating. And you see here, you've got different buckets. You've got operations for year 1 and year 2, missions and a building, and it's kind of a thing. And you give to one of these buckets or 2 of these buckets or whatever. And so that's been kind of the predominant way that we have done these things in the past in church world, just as a general statement. I'm not saying this is bad, and actually there are some things that this does. It can be effective. But what we have thought to do, and this is something that a lot of other churches have begun to do, is to rethink our funding strategy. So what I see here, and just let's compare this to this. So what we have talked about, and what we're pursuing, and what we're very excited about, is an approach to funding called One Fund. And some of you have heard this before, but here's the big idea behind One Fund. Are you ready for it? There's one. Okay, there's one fund. And that's kind of whatever, but if you think about it, we have one vision. We don't have 5 visions. We have one vision, which is to be a church without walls. We have one mission, which is to connect people to God and to others, and to connect others to God. And so what we're looking at here is one commitment to fund the vision and the mission over the next 24 months. And so we see here that this is a different way of thinking about One Fund. And I know, again, there's more questions coming, and I'm going to try to answer a few of them at least. But what we're trying to do is try to cultivate a culture of generosity that doesn't give to the bottom line operating expense budget, but rather it gives to the top line vision. And so we have one vision, and obviously there are multiple parts of that, right? We have missions, and we have operating things, and we have a building, and so we need to get all those things done. But we're rethinking about it. So instead of 5 or 6 separate asks over the course of a year or 2, we're wanting one commitment that will fund the vision for the next 24 months. And here's the other cool part. As people come in and people join Bridgeway and get excited about what we're doing, they're automatically brought into this culture. They're brought into vision-centered giving that helps them to understand that when I give $1, it's not just me, keeping on a light. It's actually me funding the vision and the mission of the church. So One Fund is an approach. It's a methodology. A lot of churches have moved to this with great success. For us, we would actually call it Bridge Beyond. And the reason for that is because all of this is missional. And we need to realize that that in terms of the greater goal of what we're trying to accomplish, we need to realize that a children's building and a missions budget and lights and a water bill are all intricately connected, right? And we get excited about different things, but we have to realize that all of these things holistically need to be working together if we are to accomplish our vision. You see how that works? And so what we're thinking about, what we're moving towards, and this is, again, there's been a lot of energy around this so far, is this One Fund approach. And so one thing about One Fund, though, it's very important, and I'm sure the kind of the wheels are turning in your mind, is, okay, like, how does this work, right? And I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but One Fund is all about priorities. So with One Fund, what we do is we look at the priorities, and there would be 3. There's operations, missions, and completing a building. And so what we look is we say each of these priorities, these are in order of importance. So we fund the operations of Bridgeway first, right, which is what we do already. Then the next thing we do is we make sure that we are fully funded for missions, because especially with people in the field and other commitments, those are critical things that cannot be compromised on. And then the third priority is the building. And so to answer that question, like, okay, 4.4 million, who here's like, so what if we don't get 4.4 million, right? That question is answered because we said that with our building project, we could either scale back the building project, or perhaps if we needed to, we could take on some additional debt to accomplish building the building or completing the building. And so you see, it's all about priorities. It's about making sure that we're looking at things, and obviously a lot of things wouldn't even change. We would have the same missions team and the same missions budget. We're going to have a general fund operating budget. We're going to have very clear expectations about how funds are appropriated, but we're going to be doing it in a way that still it encourages us to be more vision-centric and holistic in our approach. Does that make sense? Again, the more we found, the more you kind of come back to this, the better you kind of feel about it, and it gets more and more exciting as you think about it. And so as we think about One Fund, I want to just give us, like, again, for me, I'm very simple. I just need like a picture. I need like an example. So just to put this in a very quick example of what this might look like for a family, I just want to walk you through a scenario. Okay, so we're going to assume that this family makes $80,000 a year household income, and I realize some people here make less and make more, so that's not the point here, but I just want to get you to think about what this looks like on a practical level. So first, let's assume this family tithes, so they're tithing $8,000 a year. Let's say each year they want to give $1,000 extra to missions or a Bridge Beyond campaign. And then they're excited about the building, so we're going to try to sacrifice and give $7,000, which would give us a total of $16,000. But what we're thinking about, again, this is a 2-year commitment, so really the total commitment for this hypothetical family would be $32,000 that they would be giving to the vision over the course of 24 months. So that's on a practical example how this could flesh out. And again, I say that with absolutely no assumption about your interest or your ability to give. This is just a way to think about it, because as we continue to process together, this is going to be very important for you just to understand what exactly am I committing to. So it's one commitment over a 24-month period. Okay, so that's how this whole basic thing works. Again, it's simple once you get your mind around it, but again, there are some parts that are new for us, but ultimately we've seen churches, when they've adopted this approach, not only are they able to get the project done, what they've seen is that it actually helps to build a culture of generosity in the church, which is what we want to do, because long term we want to help people excel in the gracious act of giving, because most of us understand the blessing that comes along with that, and so we want to see that simply available to all of our people. Okay, so I've been going for a few minutes here, and I realize that, and I want to just, as we're processing, I just want to just land this just with sharing a little bit of just my personal journey. When I say our or my, this is me and Lizzie here, because as we've been working through this process. And I realize some of you are just hearing about this, some of you have known about this for a while. But Lizzie and I have been thinking about this project for us and this next phase for a while, And so we've started to kind of ask ourselves, okay, what does this mean? And we've asked ourselves, okay, where do we see the church going? And one of the things we've realized going through this process, first of all, is we've just realized how excited we are about being here. You know, we have, obviously we moved our family here 2 years ago, and frankly, you never know how it's going to go. Let's just be honest. You know, Texas and Oregon have nothing in common. You know, we somehow do this. The first house we ever bought, Lizzie was 6 months pregnant. The second house we bought, Lizzie was 8 months pregnant. The third house we buy, I don't even know how we're going to do that. We're going to so we make this huge move, and again, I just want to say how grateful we are for again, all of you for adopting us as your spiritual family, and we really have felt loved by you guys, and as we've continued to just go through this process of learning a new church and a new place, we're just excited, and we're more excited now than we were 2 years ago, and that's really exciting, because it doesn't always work that way, right? But we're so excited about what's happening in the church. We're so excited about the relationships that are taking root, and just the friendships and the community that we have here. And so we are really excited. And I just want to tell you that we just like being here, and we like being with you, and we appreciate you for just adopting us and just being willing to go on a journey with us. But I started to think about these things and about projects and missions and all these things, but what I started to feel is that I started to see, and I suppose Lizzie and I are kind of young enough where we're thinking about what our future and legacy will look like. It's kind of the stage we're in. And we started to think about this next journey and what we're excited about, what we're scared about, but we started to think about it, and we started to imagine, looking back 15 years from now, 20 years from now, this time, our boys, Jack and Wes, Jack's 6, Wes is 2 almost, and many of you know that they are not Christians. If you're in children's ministry, you know that Jack is definitely not saved. He has not been regenerated by the Holy Spirit. We just talked about our boys, and at some point, I can't remember if it was Lizzie or me, someone said, won't it be cool that in this building that we want to build, that Jack one day, most likely, will commit his life to Jesus in one of those rooms. I'm like, what do you say to that? And for me, here's the deal, and I've told some of this, I did not get into ministry to raise money and to build buildings. Like it's just not, like I'm not excited about that. It's like, hey, I'd like to meet indoors, right? So I think we should do this. But what I get excited about is when I think about the fact that, like, my boys will probably come to faith and they'll get baptized right out there. And I think about families that are totally broken and their kids are going to come to know Jesus, and then parents are going to see a life change in their kids, and they're going to come and they're going to give their lives to Jesus, and we're going to see an entire family get baptized together. You know, you think about Peter and Rhea, and you know, they, even just today on Facebook we posted, and there's Peter and Rhea, and they're baptizing these 2 or 3 Muslim refugees, and they can't even show their names, right? Because their situation is so tenuous. But 20 people have already been baptized, and that's cool in and of itself. But the cool part, the thing that gets even more exciting is when you think about what those 20 people might go and do for the kingdom. And that's something we won't ever see this side of heaven, but we get to be a part of that. And some guy is going to come up to you one day in heaven, and it's like, you know what? I got baptized by Peter over there. And then you're going to have that feeling of, well, what I did, I had some small part of helping Peter and Rhea or Jake and Stacy or Michael and Liz or David and Sam, all these people. I had some small part in that story. And we don't know if that person might be the person who ushers in a gospel movement in the Muslim world and sees millions of Muslims come to Jesus. And we'll never see it this side of heaven. And isn't that like so cool? And so for me, as we started to think about that, we just get excited. And we also get a little bit freaked out too, because as we think about this on a personal level, I'm a young pastor. I've never done this before, and thankfully we have a lot of people around who have. So trust me, don't think we got lots of help here. But I've never led this, and it kind of freaks me out because it's a big initiative, and frankly, I'd kind of like to play it safe for a few years and just make sure we're feeling good, make sure everyone likes me, and then we can And so that freaks me out a little bit there, and it freaks me out a little bit about what, Lizzie and I, as we've been thinking about this project, and I share this with you guys again, and I'm not trying to do this with any other motive here, but Lizzie and I feel called for this period of time, for the next 2 years, to try to give 30% of our income to this project. And in case you're wondering, there is not 30% margin in our budget. Okay, so just erase those concerns. Like, how much is that guy getting paid? Like, we don't see it. Like, we have an idea. We're prepared to make some pretty big sacrifices. But as we've started to think about, again, the spiritual legacy that we see forming, we just have been, first of all, we've been more excited about it. We've actually started to approach our finances very differently and started to ask very hard questions and kind of go through our whole finances. And, like, I just sold a guitar to kind of prepare for this, and that doesn't mean anything to you, but it means, like, I just might as well have sold my child. And it's very hard. And so, but what's interesting is God's been speaking to us, and He's been showing us things about our heart. He's been helping us look at our marriage differently, and it's just weird. And again, I'm not like, we haven't even given anything yet. So again, it's weird, but just this process has been transformational already, just at the prospect of what we're going to be trying to do. And so here's what I'm just trying to do. You know that we're not like the hard sell church. We're not going to have someone at your table saying like, "Hey, are you excited about this? What are you going to give?" And it's not like, that's just not us. But here's what I can absolutely and very with a lot of conviction and absolute clear conscience. I want to invite you to go on this journey. If what's happened already in our heart and in our marriage and in our family is any indication of what's going to come, I would frankly feel wrong with not inviting everyone else to come along this journey with us. And I believe that in some way or shape or form, God is going to use this in your spiritual journey and in your legacy. And he's going to do things to challenge some of your priorities. And I don't even know what he's going to do. It's going to be your story, not mine. But what I wanted to do tonight is I wanted to convey to you what our staff and what our elders have been thinking through and praying through, where we feel like God is leading us. And again, I'll tell you, it's going to take leadership, it's going to take commitment, it's going to take sacrifice, and on everyone's part. This is going to be a communal effort. This is going to be something we come together to do as a family. Now, I believe we can do it. I believe we have everything that we need to do that because God does not give us a vision that he does not provide for. But that does not mean that will not come without sacrifice and faith and kind of stepping out when we're afraid to do so. And so, but I don't know. I'm excited about it. I'm really amped about it, and I can't wait to actually begin this process because for me, again, it's already shown so much, it's already done so much for me, and I'm just convinced, and I think God's going to do the same in your family in some way, shape, or form. And so tonight, what I want to do is come together. I want to share some stuff. Obviously, we've got some work here. We've done a lot of work, but we also need you to speak into this, and we need you as leaders to help us continue to shape this vision and to help us understand, get the broadest possible perspective, et cetera, et cetera. And so what I want to do is I want to just pray for you very briefly, and then we're going to turn it over to your tables for just a few minutes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you at your tables to just, again, let's process this together openly. There's a few questions. There's like 2 or 3 questions. Think about those things, talk about those things, and then and here's the deal. I realize for a lot of people, that if this is new information, you probably have questions. On the back of this little question prompt, you'll see in a few minutes, there's a place where you can write comments, and then if you want to talk more specifically about anything, questions, whatever, you can write your name and number. So no anonymous comments. Please don't do that. It's so frustrating, and we don't frankly read them if you don't put your name on them. We don't, by the way, so if you complain, make sure you sign your name or it's just going straight into the bin. So do that, and what I will say is that if you have questions specifically, again, we're not going to do a whole giant Q&A, but if you have specific questions, me, Scotty, or Art will call you within this week, and we will sit down and talk and have coffee or whatever it is, and we'll talk to you about whatever questions that you have. But again, I want to just kind of conclude this portion in prayer, and then we'll kick it back to the groups. But again, I just want to say thank you. I really do. I look around and I see the people, for the most part, that make Bridgeway happen, that make it what it is, and that will help to make it what it can and should be. And I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for every one of you that serves and that uses your time and your talent and your treasure to make this place into what it is. I believe our days, we've been blessed, but I believe our best is yet to come. Amen? Amen. All right, let's pray together. God, we have come together, and you know better than anyone the vision that you've placed on our hearts. God, we thank you that you speak to us. We thank you that you've given us great leaders, that you give us your Holy Spirit, that you give us clarity about what you've set before us. And God, we do believe that you've given us a vision. And God, I know and I'm so confident that you are going to go ahead of us, that you're going to go with us as we step out in faith as a church. And so, guys, I thank you for what you have done, what you're going to do. I thank you for the opportunity to sacrifice for the sake of the kingdom. I thank you for the opportunity to come together as a family to accomplish something really that we can't do on our own, but that you can do through your power working in and through us. So God, thank you for tonight. Thank you for these people. I am so grateful for the gift that each of them are to me and to this church. I'm grateful for the love that they have for you and for Jesus and for the people around them that desperately need to come to know him. So God, would you just again be with us as we talk about what we have discussed tonight, as we do our best to discern your will. Would you just be speaking into us? Would you lead us and guide us? Would you give us unity and great clarity and great joy? We thank you. It's in the name of Jesus we said, amen.